Yes guys, Harry here, welcome back to another video on the channel. In today's video, we've got a top 10 under 23 players for less than £5. If you do enjoy the video, please do leave it a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I've pushed the boat out a little bit today. I'm wearing a cap for the first time ever.
Ooh, you're hard showing off.
Shout out to Hoodwink, where he kindly gifted me this SORARE cap, so I'm going to make use of it. It's going to appear in the videos now and again, especially like today, where I'm having a shocking hair day. But without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Okay, so I've picked out 10 players that you can pick up for less than £5 on SORARE. Of course, we're speaking about limiteds. And first up is Andreas Perea for Orlando City. He's under 23 until July 1st, 2025, so there's plenty of utility there. Even though he's not quite a starter right now, I'm sure in the next couple of years, he will be. I can't guarantee that. From what I've seen, and I've watched him play, he's a very good player. If we look at his all-time SORARE scores, you can see he was a starter for a little while, and he was getting some decent scores. There was a decisive in this game. There was an all-round score of 26 here, an all-round score of 26 here, a decisive here with a score of 6.2, and a decisive here with an all-round score of 16.9. So he was very capable of, when he was starting, scoring very well. This season has been a little bit bleak. There's a 67, there's a 50 there, there's a 49, but the rest of it is basically sub-appearances, hence why he's so cheap. He struggled to get into the side this season, to be honest, but that does mean there could be a buying opportunity there going into next season and maybe the season after that. You've got him until 2025 under 23 eligible, so there's plenty of utility left in him. I think this could be a decent little pickup for less than £5. Next on the list is Sota Kawasaki, playing for Kyoto Sanga in the J League. He is under 23 eligible until 2026, so even more utility than our first pick. Under £5, it's a centre midfielder. In terms of this season, he started most games. He started off really well. He got himself a 70 in the first game with a 9.6 AA score and a decisive. He got a nice 75 here. This was a 34.3 AA game, which is huge. Another good score here, 60 plus his 15 AA. A 64 here with a 26 all-round score. A 50, a 52. There's a 28 in there, to be fair. 48, 40. And then the second half of the season hasn't been great. Hasn't been shocking. 62s, 52, 50, 49, 37, 29. 35, 44, and a 46. A couple of DMPs, which I don't have the reason for. But for a player under £5, and he's under 23 eligible until 2026, I think this could be a decent little long-term hold, to be honest. Next on the list is Daniel Pereira, again a MLS player. Under 23 eligible until 2025, which is nice. Loads of utility. Under £5 again. He isn't going to break the scoring matrix in any way, shape or form, but there's definitely some nice scores here to be had. Last game in 67 minutes, he got himself a 55. There's a 60 here, so he got himself a decisive. 1.7 AA. 74 here, 13 AA score, another decisive. 65 with a 1.1 AA. Quite a few light green scores, 53, 53, 54, 55. 45s, 48, 49s. Couple of poor scores here, 14, which isn't great to be fair, 28, 35s. But for a £5 or less player, I think there's okay value in this, to be honest. A lot of these players that I have picked are eligible for the next few years in under 23. So if you're not getting immediate utility out of them, in this case you are. Are you getting huge scores? No. But could they do the job in underdog? Possibly. And if you're able to hold him for 3 years plus, you'd like to think you're going to get a lot of utility out of this player for less than £5. Next on the list is Nicolas Acevedo. Under 23 eligible until next season. So this one doesn't fall into the long-term hold category, I would say. But the immediate utility in this player, I think, outweighs his non-eligibility long-term for under 23. So as we can see here, nice little dark green 84. 75, 72, 60s, a load of 50s, a couple of 40s as well. But for somebody who mainly plays CDM, he does get really decent AA scores. As we can see, last game against Chicago Fire in a 2-0 win, 19.6. We got an 11 here, 30, 16, 22s, 37. There's some nice scores here. You're not going to get crazy scores from a player like this every game, but for less than £5, I think it's a decent option, especially for underdog right now. You just never know what cards can pop off on certain game weeks, especially when the matchup is favorable. But like I said, I do think his immediate utility does outweigh his long-term non-eligibility for under 23s. Next up is George Campbell. I do actually own a George Campbell on SORARE. He's eligible until 2025, so we do have a load of utility left in him. He's less than £5, of course, plays for Atlanta United in the MLS. He's been a bit hit or miss this season. There's some crazy peak scores, 84 here, there's a 90 here. That score there actually helped me win the under 23 Super Rare division in game week 280. So that score does hold a special place in my heart. He has been injured the last few games, as you can see here, 4 DMPs in the row. So that could account for why he is under £5 right now. Don't get me wrong, this graph doesn't look ridiculously good. He is a player, though, I have watched in real life. I went to an Atlanta Sporting Kansas City game. He played really well. This was the game that I went to watch. It was game week 248. There's a vlog on my channel if you want to go watch it. But yeah, they won 3-1, and I was really impressed with him. For a 21-year-old player, I think he's got bags of ability. He's strong, athletic, composed. I think he's got what it takes really to be a decent centre-back. And a player that could definitely score well on SORARE, given a full season of playing and no fitness issues. Next up is Bryce Duke, another American, under 23 eligible until 2025. There's definitely a theme within this top 10. Plays for Inter Miami. He is in and out of the side. I wouldn't say he plays every game. Again, under £5, of course. But there's some really, really nice scores here. You've got an 87 here with a 26 AA game, a 71, a 68, a 60, a 66. He's a number 10 that does like to take corners as well, which is favourable, of course, on the SORARE scoring matrix. Like I said, you're not going to get crazy amounts of utility out of him this season because he's in and out of the side. But for a player of his age, his ability, I do think there will be a season where you will get full utility out of him at some point between now and 2025. So I'm hoping a card like this will become of value to somebody within the next few years. Next up is Tomoya Fujii in the J League, plays for Sanfrecce Hiroshima. He is under 23 eligible until 2023, same as Acevedo. So we don't have a crazy amount of utility left, enough to be able to use him for the next year or so. Again, of course, under £5. There's some decent scores here, an 88. We've got a load of 50s, a 70. He mainly plays right mid, as you can see here. And over the last year or so, he's hit some decent scores. Nothing crazy. There's the odd decisive as well in places. But for the most part, 10 to 20 AA, which isn't bad for a player less than £5. A goal here against Racel. So, not a crazy amount of decisives and not a crazy amount of AAs either. But of course, what can you expect for players under £5? There has to be quite a lot of downside to these players. Otherwise, they wouldn't be £5, right? That's just the brutality of it. But if his L15 drops by 1 more point, he could be a decent specialist player and somebody that could plug into underdog straight away because his L15 is, of course, under 50. Next up is Callum Slattery, playing for Motherwell, English midfielder. He is under 23 eligible until 2023, so not a crazy amount of utility left, but enough for a player that you can get for less than £3. Disclaimer, I do own a couple of his super rares, to be fair. One of my best friends actually went to school with him and told me he's a bit of a player, so I thought I'd dive in and get some cards of his. And look, again, scores aren't ridiculous. He actually got a decisive 2 games ago in a 3-2 win at Aberdeen. He's been playing on the right wing sometimes. He played centre mid last game, which was better to see. He is more of a centre midfielder than he is a right winger. He did miss the first 2 games of the season because of suspension. But you can see there's some decent AA scores here. 10, 14.6, 13.7. And luckily he got a goal in this game against Livingston because his AA game was -8. There's an 11.9 here, 11.2. It's some really decent scores. I wouldn't say they're crazy good. Clearly, he's a £3 limited player. They're not going to be ridiculously good. But I do think there's a player here where, yes, he could plug into underdog and he will get decisive now and again, as you can see. And you just got to hope that when he does get a decisive, he does get that 10 to 15 AA game as well. Going off last season, as you can see here, he did take set pieces. He took 15 corners. But for a player that you can pick up for less than £3, I don't think it's a bad underdog pick. And I don't think it's a bad under 23 midfielder slot in if you're struggling to find a cheap under 23 midfielder. Next up is Daiki Matsuoka, under 23 eligible until 2025, Japanese centre midfielder for Shimizu Pulse in the J League. Again, another player that I do have exposure to, I do own a super rare of. He's a player that I've known about for a long time now, and his scores at his previous club were ridiculously good. As you can see here, 83s, 93s, 76s. I think he was on a lot of set pieces at the time. He's now since moved to Shimizu Pulse. His scores haven't been as great. He did have a bit of an injury spell as well, which didn't help, but he has got back into the side over the last few games, over these last 4 games, and he is now captain of the side as well. They're winning games, they're not losing as many as they were. They went through a bit of a bad spell around this situation where he was injured, but it looks like he's got himself back into the side, he's captain, and for a player less than £5, I don't think there's that much risk in my opinion. He's eligible until 2025, like we said. I think we will eventually see him hit some scores like he's done in the past. I think it's just a case of settling into his new club and being injury-free for a little while. But the data's there. He's been able to hit those scores previously. I'm sure he can hit them again, albeit in a different team. The last player on our list is Fuji Honda. Again, a J-League Japanese centre midfielder or cam, eligible until 2025. He's available for less than £3. There's not a crazy amount of data on this one, but for what we can see, there's some really nice peaks. 91, 70, 71, 67, 60. He was in and out of the side for a little while. He did get a nice little streak of games here, even though a lot of them were poor scores, but a couple decisive scores as well. I've watched his highlights, and he's a very, very explosive player. Pretty small, low center of gravity, but really fast, and seems to have an eye for a pass as well. And like I said, for less than £3, I don't think it's a bad pickup, considering you've got a load of utility left. Is he going to light up the world for you? No. Can he be used in underdog and specialist? Yes, his L15 is 40 right now. Do I think he's going to 10x in price? Probably not. But will he do a job on specific game weeks? Yes. That is all you can really ask for players that are less than £5, really, in my opinion. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this video, guys. I hope the cap wasn't too distracting. If you did enjoy it, please do leave it a like. And if you are new to the channel, like I said at the start of the video, please do subscribe. If you're completely new to SORARE and you haven't signed up yet, there's a link in the description of this video that will get you 1 free limited card once you've purchased 5 from the new card auctions on SORARE. I hope you have a great game week. I hope you have a great day, and I shall see you guys in the next video.